All right, everyone stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call.
Councilmember Keller.
He is excused.
Councilmember Happy.
Here.
Councilmember Seeger.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Crumpton.
Here.
Councilmember Emily Baker.
Here.
And Mayor Fallon.
Here. All right. Any additions or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none. Adoption of consent agenda.
Move to adopt consent agenda, including the approval of October 14, 2024 City Council action minutes. And the ratification of the bills in the amount of $113,759.39.
I second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Happy.
Aye.
Councilmember Seeger.
Aye.
Councilmember Miller.
Aye.
Councilmember Crumpton.
Aye.
Councilmember Emily Baker. Aye. And Mayor Fallon.
Aye, it passes. Okay, on to 4, appearance of interested citizens. That Mary Ann Bump. You're the only one. Come on, Mary Ann.
Okay, all right. I want to talk to you about dumpster days. I want to thank you guys for having dumpster days, but I have some concerns that I think you need to be aware of. There was no one at the entrance of the dump verifying whether it was a resident of Cascade Locks. And there was no list of customers so that the city would know how many people used this service and that they were not a business. I understand that the dumpsters were full about 2 p.m. And the gate was locked so no one could use the dumpsters, but they should have been able to dump yard debris and metal. And they couldn't. And according to this flyer that we have right here, it is open till 4 o'clock. So I don't understand why they closed it at 2. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, public hearing?
No public hearing.
No. Okay, 6, action items. Adopt ordinance number 460.
Sorry, just writing my notes here
That's okay.
to follow up on.
Okay. Mary Ann, you said it closed at 2?
That's what I was told. It was closed about, well, the dumpsters were full about 2 and they closed the gates.
Okay.
Because we had a citizen that was down there that wanted to do yard debris.
Okay.
Couldn't.
All right, thank you.
All right, ordinance 460, short-term rental operations. At the September 23rd, 2024 and October 14th, 2024 council meeting, the council reviewed draft updates to the city's ordinance on short-term rental operations. Council had consensus to move forward with updates that focus on safety requirements and language that allows for future fee implementation. Council has came to a consensus to create an ad hoc committee to complete a deeper review of short-term rental limits and operations in Cascade Locks. The committee will be created at a later date. Per city charter, the rules, the ordinance may pass as a single vote if it passes unanimously and is read in full or title only. I did confer this with City Attorney Cleveland. The charter does state entire council. Because Councilor Keller is not present today, we cannot pass it in a single reading. But we still can do it with reading by title only. We did discuss also actually changing the title and making it an emergency ordinance. That way we have it in place in time before we start receiving applications for short-term or TRT renewals in January 1. So we do the first reading today. The second reading would be November 20, whatever that month is, 25th, and it would be in effect the next day. We usually start getting in applications around that time or beginning of December. Otherwise, we'd have to wait until December 25th for it to be in effect, and by that point, we have all of our applications in. My concern is that we'd start receiving applications under rules that would be in limbo. So that would just cause confusion. So I wanted to get, that's why I was doing this now, hopefully under one read. But we would make a title change to it. So let me go to it here really quick. The title would be an ordinance of the city of Cascade Locks adopting short-term rental regulations within the city of Cascade Locks, comma, repealing ordinance number 448 and declaring an emergency. It would be an emergency because we have concerns about the safety requirements within the short-term rentals. That's
So
what.
section 4 would be amended from the
Thank you.
the copy of the ordinance that was distributed to read that an emergency is declared. And so this ordinance being necessary for health, safety, and welfare shall take effect immediately after approval by the mayor.
So that updated language would be in publicly noticed for the next meeting on November 25th. But we can still do the first read and vote tonight.
As long as we're all in consensus.
Correct. So, well, I mean, we can still do the read
Right.
and vote. If there's no dissent, we can do by title only, but as one of you wants it read in full, we have to read it in full. So the first question is, does council want it read in full or in title only with just substantive changes read out?
It's fine.
I'm fine with
I
that.
mean, yeah, it's not a very long
I'm
ordinance. so
I'm
either
good
way.
with it.
Okay.
Councilmember Happy?
I'm just wondering, it's just for expediency's sake, I mean, could we take, I bet you we could get Mr. Keller on the line for voting on this, if we could, if it would make a difference to get this.
That's up to council.
So just wanted to throw that out there. I bet you we could see if, I mean, he may not be feeling, well enough to be for the whole meeting, but he may be able to participate for just a set of action item. So if there's gonna be.
That's a good idea, but due to the fact that we've made the change to the emergency, I think it's better to leave it all on for the next meeting so that those changes can be put out.
Counselor Seeger has his hand up.
Okay. Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, should I wait for the motion before we start discussion or,
Yes.
okay, I'll stand by.
Well, I mean,
So,
it
well,
is the question about the process or the actual ordinance? Because if the question is about the ordinance itself, it'd be waiting for the motion, but we're talking about how to proceed properly at this point.
Yeah, it's about the process. So I would like us to maybe take a quick recess and see if we could get Councilmember Keller on board. But my other comment is, well, I guess it's a question. If we had, I know we eliminated a meeting in November because of Veterans Day. If we actually put that meeting back on the calendar, could we do the second reading then and not trigger this emergency clause?
Yes, we could. Like I said, my concern is I don't want it floating out there so close to the application deadline with the rules not in place. My goal was to have this by the end of November.
and Ruben, can you restate about why we're not calling Mr. Keller?
Okay, so the emergency clause is a valid use anyway, because what we're dealing with is public safety. We have, it's making smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors mandatory. So we're authorized, whether we do this through one reading with Councilmember Keller or two readings without him, to declare that this is an emergency situation. At this point, though, the recommendation to do the second reading is so that we can actually have a final format of the ordinance in the packet with all the changes, but it really doesn't change the fact of whether their council has the authority to determine whether an emergency exists or not.
Okay. So how does council? Go ahead.
What's the purpose of declaring an emergency? I understand that it's warranted, but what's the purpose of that?
Then it takes effect immediately rather than 30 days after being signed. That's the only effect.
I see. So if we had Mr. Keller here and we did it in one reading as was the plan, then it would take effect in 30 days.
Correct, and we could adopt it as is, yes, if you wanted to do that, then that's a very good point, we could, not do the changes, declaring it an emergency and adopt it in one reading, tonight.
Councilmember Baker?
I'm asking, Councilmember Seeger, why, do you not like it to have the emergency clause?
Thanks. So it would be my issue with the emergency clause is that when you do that, and this is a question for the attorney, but are you then kind of overruling? Typically, when council passes an ordinance, then it has 30 days to be, challenged by the voters. They can say, "Hey, I don't like what the council just did," and they have this period where they can seek, a challenge to that. When you do the emergency, then now we just eliminated that step in a typical ordinance adoption process. And this just doesn't feel like it rises to like, it's an extreme emergency, especially since we've been conducting operations so long without this in place. So that's why I was hesitant to get on board with the emergency clause, given the fact that it's just kind of it feels like it's undercutting the typical process that voters can, review and challenge ordinances if they don't like what council's doing in a typical process.
Yes, you are correct. It does affect the referendum process, and that in order for it to be challenged, it would have to be challenged anew without going through that process. You are correct.
Councilmember Crompton?
I think we should, before we discuss the ordinance more, we should decide how we're going about it, because right now we're starting to discuss things that would be in the debate part of
Discussion.
So I'm in favor of doing the short reading now and waiting for, and if somebody wants to try to call Mr. Keller to get him in here or on Zoom real quick to be a part of that, I'm okay with that too, but any more than that, we should go for the vote.
Ruben, what was your comment on calling Mr. Keller?
Well, I mean, if we want to proceed as a non-emergency basis, then we can call Mr. Keller and get him on, and then pass it. Let's see, we can do by one reading, if we have a unanimous vote of the entire council, and then it could be passed then as written in the packet where it's effective 30 days from now.
Councilmember Baker, you had your hand up.
I just want to remind this body that if we are only meeting once in November, then folks watching the meeting know that there is now 30 days after tonight before the next meeting, if they would like to make comment as well. So 30 days is sort of built in by the fact that we only have one meeting next month.
So to be consensus to call Mr. Keller?
If
Do you want to?
I can reach
You
out.
want to-
You want to take a short recess?
We can go ahead and take a short.
Madam Mayor, can I have one quick question?
Yes.
So for the city administrator, if we get Mr. Keller online and we get a unanimous vote tonight, and then we provide again the 30-day process, how does that look for your timing? So now we're not effective until, what is that, November 26th or 28th or whatever the calendar looks like.
Yeah.
Then you got to do all the stuff for the application. Does that give you enough time, or you see what I'm asking? How's that sound for you?
Yes, that gives us enough time.
Okay, great. Then, yeah, I definitely want to
We
call.
don't receive applications until beginning of December usually, but
Okay.
now this will give them enough time.
Excellent.
So that this extra safety step is required.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay. See. Kevin Bennett.
So are you guys taking a break or,
Yes. Or.
okay,
Pause, we're
we're in
paused,
recess?
we're paused.
We're pausing, okay.
Christmas presents going over there.
I missed my cousin's birthday. A little baby cousin. I found the cutest Highland cow pattern. Excited.
So Ruben, if Counselor Keller does join, then I'll need to reread the title and the substantive changes twice, correct?
Let's see. Any section of a proposed ordinance containing substantive change shall be read in full prior to consideration.
That's not never full voters.
So the way I'm reading that means that any change from what was presented in the packet.
Oh. I always interpreted that as
Any left?
changes from the previous ordinance.
Well, I think this applies to all ordinances on this. If it was a new ordinance, there are no changes.
Correct, yeah, we'd have to do the whole
So
thing.
that would be changes from what was distributed in the packet. So if
Did you
it's
call Michaela?
as it was in the
Did you tell
packet, you
Michaela?
don't need to read those in full.
Okay, so we could just read the title.
Correct.
Okay, I had interpreted that incorrectly.
He's making one more call.
Okay,
Mhm. And if we need, we can always maybe move it. I hope he's well enough. Everybody's getting a crud. Mhm. Mhm.
I'm looking for COVID test today. Our store doesn't.
Across the river.
I'm trying to figure out. I just got funny.
I think he does have one.
The whooping cough is.
I heard about
it. Because.
I heard.
12 is right between the vaccination ages. And so there's a lot of kids that are really susceptible to it right now, and if you don't catch it early, medicine isn't effective any longer. You just kind of have to wait it out while you're coughing so hard to bruise your ribs.
like 12 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, like 12 weeks of waiting it out.
Did you have it?
No.
No.
No, just read too much about it.
Michaela answered.
Huh?
Michaela answered, she's gonna try to track him down, so.
Okay. All right.
He's really feeling pretty crummy, so he might be completely asleep, so.
All right. So we can either try, we can move this a little bit. And see if he calls in. How does council feel about that?
You mean put it on
Just
the-
we're moving it down a little bit.
Okay.
I know we. All right, so we're gonna move 6A. We're gonna give it some time. Maybe around the 7, somewhere there. All right, let's go to 6B. Approve RFP for contract planning services.
all right. At the October 14th, 2024 meeting, council directed staff to prepare an RFP for review and possible distribution for contracted planning services. Council also directed staff to contact other similar sized cities with contracted planners to compare their rates to those proposed by Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. Attached for review are a draft RFP for planning services, the fee structure comparing Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments and WSP, which is our current planners, and a breakdown of fees provided by other cities.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the RFP for contract planning services?
I moved to approve the RFP for planning services. as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion?
I will note, as mentioned when we originally had this discussion back in August, it does have two proposal options for the contracted services, similar to what we have now, where they only provide technical expertise and the city staff still provides frontline customer service, or a second option where the contracted planner provides frontline customer service as well. And other than accepting the applications in person, it is out of city staff's hands. That would also allow the applicant or developer, resident, whoever it is, to connect directly with the planner. Again, you can see the fee comparisons in WSP versus Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. Once you get to the lower level planners, it's pretty similar, but the top end planners is significantly higher per hour for WSP. I did reach out to other cities. I was able to only get 4 of them. And they're kind of all over the board. And they all have different setups where some of them, they're contracted planners, but they're kind of quasi employees where they have set office hours, and that's when they interact with applicants. Or some are just like us, where the city staff runs as the intermediate between them. So it's kind of all over the place, and what
Everybody.
what
does it
contractor
different.
you get, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody does it a little differently. Councilmember Happy?
Were you the one that made the calls then to the other cities?
I did, yes. Yeah, I made calls and emails, yep.
As far as what's happening in Tangent versus Wood Village, I mean, development, I mean, and are they happy with their planning services? I mean, is there?
Yes, correct,
So
yeah.
all of these they're all doing a good job.
Yep,
All of the
yep.
planners that they're currently working with.
Councilmember Baker?
So is it my understanding then that we are asking the folks who are putting out proposals to propose 1 and 2?
Or both.
Right,
Yeah, both or one, whatever they prefer. I mean, whatever route they want to go. They could do just 1 or just 2 or both.
I would like to see companies that gave a price for each. And do you have an estimated amount of time that we usually do get this frontline customer service? Like how often a month would you round that up to?
It depends on what applications we get. We could go 2 months with nothing, or we could probably have anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a month. I mean, again, we're kind of the in-between. We do initial review of the application, make sure all the materials are there, but when it comes to actually interpreting our code for expertise, it goes to the planner.
Okay. Councilmember Crompton, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay,
That's how I just.
okay. Councilmember Seeger, do you have any?
Yes, a few questions. So real quick, on option 2, where they do frontline customer service, I'm sorry if I missed it. What's the cost per hour for those services?
From who?
From Mid-Willamette Valley.
It'd be the same. It'd still be the 100, 130, or 100 or 130, depending on who provides it. That wouldn't change.
Okay.
But again, I mean, if we go the other route and enter into contract negotiations, I could get more details on that.
Understand.
Again, that contract would
Okay.
come before council to approve.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you my take. So I'm not in favor of going out for RFP. These prices that we're seeing from Mid-Willamette seem pretty competitive compared to what other cities are paying. And Wood Village, it's a small community, kind of like us. So the fact that they're even paying more than we would, and again, they don't have this array of sorts and depth of services that Mid-Willamette would have. I don't think that's a good use of the city administrator's time. And I know he's interested in moving forward with different contract for planning services. So I feel like the smarter move is to move to have him enter into negotiations with that and not pursue any RFP. That's where I'm at on this. And for the record, I'm open to considering option 1 or 2, but I lean towards having our staff do the first line of questioning for folks who want to do building activity. I think it's nice to have someone who knows the community very well, like our employees do, and then get that first initial, set of questions, probably for a lot cheaper when you think about $100 an hour, So I think that'd be smarter to have just a properly trained staff, which we do right now, who's exceptional in that, to manage that level of planning service requirement. And then the higher level stuff we send to Mid-Willamette.
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you. I think Mid-Willamette has a fine proposal, and I would like to see, out of all fairness, other proposals. Particularly, it had been mentioned that the planner who helped write our food cart code, who's also working for the port, might be willing to put in a proposal, so that collaborative working might be nice. And also, I would like to see both, if planners are giving a proposal on each, in price structure, I'm inspired and optimistic by seeing $73 an hour at Tangent. And I just think that we've only received one proposal mid, if I say it right, Mid-Willamette Valley. And I think, in all fairness to our community, and that we looked outside of one, it is important to get other proposals.
Okay, and Councilmember Happy.
How much work, to Mr. Seeger's point, is this gonna put on your desk, and how long will this delay the process if we send this out for RFP?
Well, it depends on how long council wants to have it out. At this point, given our canceled meetings, we're probably looking at January at the earliest before council approves a new planner. If not into February, given we'll have probably new council members.
So there would be plenty of time for if there was an RFP.
Oh, yeah, probably best to actually, because of the holiday, run it longer,
Right.
or holidays.
Okay.
And that was in here, there's a bunch of question marks.
Yes, I wanted to, confirm deadlines with council. But in terms of actual, we send out the RFP, have Ruben double check it, make sure it's good to go. We'll distribute it out to all of the job boards out there for planners. And then the time to review it, probably bring in Hood River County or Hood River City's planners to review it, just as a kind of third party outside, whether it's a good proposal or not, because off the top of my experience, I wouldn't know. I don't know, dozen hours, not a huge amount, a dozen,
Okay.
give or take. Just again, I'd like to move forward sooner than later.
So what are we paying right now for planning services?
It depends on who's assigned. The person that's usually assigned to our work was 185. That person left the company for whatever reason. And most recently, the person who's done the majority of the work has been at 150. But there was a while where essentially the higher paid person was training the lower paid person, and we were paying for both of them. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not,
Not cool.
No.
no. Mm-mm.
So to answer Mr. Seeger's concerns, you don't feel like it's got time bandwidth to take this on?
Correct. Yeah.
And I know before you were advocating for Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments because of the cost savings, and do you feel like this would be good served use of your time to put this out for RFP and like some different proposals?
No, it wouldn't hurt. No, I am not an issue at all. Yeah. I'd be curious to see what's out there, given these prices that other cities have gotten.
Councilmember Compton.
On that kind of same vein, are there any of these currently running projects that are in danger of not getting completed if we don't make a change in our planners till January?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I guess that'll clarify a point from the meeting 2 weeks ago. They haven't missed any state deadlines. We have internal deadlines to get some kind of initial review back to applicants within 14 days, and that deadline has been missed. But any state deadlines of 120 days have been met, but they've been pretty darn close to 120 days. So there really isn't doesn't seem to be any urgency when it comes to assisting Cascade Locks.
Councilmember Baker?
And just because I'm curious, and we have Mr. Cleveland here, is there any action we can take when they don't meet those deadlines?
That's a good question. I would assume so.
Mhm.
Or is that on us and not them?
Well, it's just a follow up on it. I'd have to look at what particular deadline we're talking about. Yeah, I'd have to take a look at that a little further to see what kind of action specifically we could take. But I would like to just throw in that Tennyson Engineering out of the Dalles just hired a new planner and that they're looking for new customers.
I would be supportive of putting out an RFP so we can say we've done our due diligence and we've checked, and anybody who's interested, especially if there's a new planner in the Dalles, which isn't that far. So that could be helpful. Councilmember Seeger?
Thank you. So just a little curious. So what's the workload on our planner right now? Are they busy with this housing development and some other things, or what does their workload look like?
We have two
We have two public hearings.
we have two public hearings coming up November 21st. And that's
Okay.
the busiest they've been in a while. So it's very hit or miss. At least in the 2 years I've been here, it's been very hit or miss.
Right. Okay, well, my crystal ball says if we go out for RFP, we're not going to find much better of a proposal as what we're seeing right now. But, we'll see. Sounds like there's council's that. We'll see.
Okay. So everybody,
Well, I think it's worth noting too that we do need to reach out to at least 3 firms in order to meet procurement regulations.
okay. RFP it is.
So I guess before a vote, does council have a preference on submission deadline?
What would be your timeline? By
I think at this
November?
point, I mean, I'm trying to think here.
End of November?
Today's 28th. Get it out, get the RFP out by the end of the week. Let's see here.
By the 1st?
Get it out by really Thursday, the 31st. We don't meet again until the 25th. Ruben, is there a minimum it has to be out for RFP per state guidelines?
No, but it's recommended at least 14 days.
That's what I figured, yeah. Okay, so if we do the 14 day, we could possibly get it at the next council meeting. If we do 14 days.
And how much time, so you need some leeway before the next council meeting, so you want them to turn it in by Tuesday prior to the.
Well, I guess to have it in the packet would be the 20th. Yeah, it'd be a tight turnaround for evaluations. So we could maybe, how about the 22nd? That'll be 3 weeks. And then that'll give me a week and a half to review, put it for the packet for December 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
Sound good? All right. Need to vote.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Seeger?
Thank you. So if we do the RFP, I'm more in favor of giving the proposers 3 weeks instead of 2. When you do that, you broaden your net because you have more time to advertise and get the word out. And if we're going to do that, we might as well be as vigorous as possible in seeing what the market looks like. Sometimes people don't hear about it, that, they have, a medical thing in their firm and they're just not really paying attention. And they miss this because that's a tight window. My suggestion would be we do 3 weeks, so we ensure we have a thorough investigation of the market and give folks plenty of time to put up a
Yep.
proper proposal.
Councilmember Seeger, it is 3 weeks.
Yeah, we are proposing.
It is 3 weeks. Okay,
Yes, we are.
excellent. Thank you. I thought we were
Yep,
saying.
we're.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry, one more item. Assuming we don't get a proposal from WSP or we get one and don't select them, we do need to give them 30-day notice to end the contract, which would put this around some breathing room. And because I like contracts starting on the first of the month, the proposed start date of February 1st. So we make a decision on February 9th. On the 10th, I would reach out to the business to confirm it with a start date of February 1. That would give me more than 30 days notice to tell WSP.
Said February 9th, you mean December 9th, is that right?
Sorry, yes, yeah. The council will make the decision December 9th. Yes.
Back it up a couple
With an
months.
anticipated start date of February 1st, 2025. Yes.
Okay. So is it clear?
And the no later that they're submitting on what date?
5 p.m. Friday, November 22nd.
Okay. Need to vote. Any other discussion? All right. Do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Seeger,
I'm a nay. Thank you.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Councilmember Happy,
Aye.
Councilmember Emmerling Baker,
I,
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
and Mayor Fallon.
Aye. It passes.
All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Pete, no text. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go into committee reports.
No committee reports tonight.
Okay. Next one, League of Oregon Cities Conference, Council President Happy.
Right.
He has a fancy new app and you can tell he can take notes.
All right, well, you guys have all of my notes in the packet as a PDF, but just for the interest of time, I'm gonna kind of move through these just to hit the high points. But if anybody has any questions, please keep on. The first, and these are kind of in the chronological order of the way that I attended the conference, but I do want to point out that there's been concern brought to council as well about use of public funds to send us to these events, and I do think that it's important that I take detailed notes and I share these because I think that it's important that you know, our residents see the value of us attending these events as well. So the first class I went to session was on hate speech and civility, and the main, it was about freedom of speech, and they're talking about online disruptions called Zoom bombing, something we've actually had happen here. But it's required that if we have the technical capability of hosting our meetings on Zoom, that we have to do that. And that opens us up to the possibility of outside people coming into our meeting and taking over the meeting. So some of the things they talked about was, and I'm glad to see Kathy's got the Zoom over there. They did talk about, the city administrator, not being also required to run the Zoom because there's a lot going on there. So, and again, some of the suggestions they have, it's not based on things that have happened already in our city. It's more about issues that have happened in other places and not waiting until something happens to make changes. So some of the key recommendations that they came up with was developing a preamble and warning scripts for council meetings, preparing staff for handling online disruptions. So what to do in that case. So one of the recommendations was to call a recess, and shutting somebody down or telling them they can't talk. There's some legal arguments as far as the freedom of speech, and Oregon's a little bit more tolerant about what people can say, and than the federal, the way it's, I guess, federally looked at. So one of the ways to work around that was to call a recess, and then just turn the volume down. They said, we also have a requirement not to subject our staff to a hostile work environment. So it is important to be kind of walk that line and be careful about that. Consider pre-registration for public comment, when do we expect people to pre-register if they're gonna do public comment via Zoom?
4 o'clock.
So
I think.
you're already doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, 4 o'clock, the day of the meeting. Yeah.
4 o'clock. Typically, we generally review council procedures in January after we have a new council, so it seems like it would be timely to maybe look at updating our council procedures in January to incorporate some of those warning scripts and behavioral expectations involving public comment procedures and adding rules for managing online disruptions during virtual meetings, since that's not something we currently have in our council procedures. So I thought that was really timely since we're just getting ready to kind of look at doing that. The next class was on maximizing city resources using AI. Some of the applications where they thought that this could be really beneficial is meeting minutes. So for example, we've moved to an all audio recording for our official meeting minutes, but utilizing an AI note taker to actually take the transcription and turn those into action minutes. Or some of the comments we've heard recently about how it's hard to find who said what and when quickly without having to go through the whole Zoom recording. There's a possibility of using AI to help with that. I think you used an example of drafting a budget. One of the examples they used, which Mr. Miller, you might have appreciated, it was a golf course ordinance. And so in the class, they actually had ChatGPT draft a ordinance for using golf carts. It was really pretty cool how quickly they were able to put something together. Challenges, main one is data and privacy. So anything that we put into ChatGPT is now out there. So they said, you don't want to be using it for HR stuff, for example, using real names. That could be a conflict there, confidentiality breach. So that leads to some recommendations about having AI policies and training staff on those about a responsible application of using artificial intelligence at work and how to limit that risk. Next was a small cities roundtable and how to leverage limited resources. Some of I guess the one that really was the biggest takeaway for me was the city of Philomath was talking about a facade improvement grant program for downtown revitalization. I thought you would really like this discussion, but they got, I believe that they got the funds to provide the matching funds through a grant to the city. And then they were offering a 50-50 matching grant to local businesses. So if they wanted to put $25,000 into their facade improvement, then the city would match them. They talked a lot about volunteerism and how to get high school students to help out with city events, and there was some discussion about the recreational liability. I think we talked about that here too, mainly on the coast.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal on the coast. Yeah.
But something to think about as well. Next class was on FEMA's floodplain compliance strategy, which was way over my head. So
It was a big topic.
it was a big
It was
topic
big.
and a lot of legalese and acronyms. But basically, we have to adopt. We have 3 options for compliance. We can either adopt FEMA's model ordinance for strict conservation. We can use permit by permit habitat assessments for flexibility, or we can collaborate with regional partners to share administrative tasks. So number one, biggest takeaway was just to use the floodplain map to decide, how much of an impact it's going to have on our community. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so up here behind everybody, I actually get to use my pointer. Awesome. There we go. This is the floodplain map. It's really hard to see if you're not 2 inches from it. But so actually technically, this guy to the far right from 1984 is our current floodplain map.
From 1984.
That's the current floodplain map. This is what they're proposing to update sometime next year at this point. Most of the floodplain for Cascade Locks is along Herman Creek. What's that? And Dry Creek. Yeah, it has very little impact on the city at all. There's a few homes already in it. But anywhere there would be new development, the special flood zone, whatever they call it, SFHA, really has no effect on any future development. There's a small bit that touches where the airport is, if that ever may get developed at some point, and where Easy Climb is, but.
Or Easy Climb is?
Easy Climb, yeah, it's really just coming up the banks from the river. It really doesn't get into the major area of where Easy Climb is. It just slightly encroaches on it, it's not very much.
Isn't that zoned high density?
It is, yes.
It is.
So they said it was something about 170 feet. Is that 170 feet like laterally or is that vertically?
I'm not sure, I would assume laterally. I'd have to double check on that one,
We're about 170 feet right here.
yeah.
So it's gotta be lateral then.
Yeah, so the freeway's at 212.
Mhm.
So doesn't sound like it's gonna have a huge impact on our city. but we
From
have
what I
till-
can tell, no, but I need
But we
to
have till
follow up.
12/1 to respond, is that
Correct,
right?
yeah.
And the biggest thing was you gotta say something, because if you don't say something, then you're gonna get triggered for an audit.
Yeah.
And so they said, just, you gotta give them something, but one of the options was to say, we're gonna wait till you get your environmental impact study completed. Which was supposed to be already done, but it's not, and how are we supposed to make a decision without understanding the environmental impact of the decision we're making? So one of the options was to say, well, we're gonna go permit by permit until we get the results of the EIS sometime in 2025. Next was short-term rentals, again, another real pertinent topic, since we've got the ordinance on our table right now. A lot of what they talked about, we already have included in our updated ordinance. But some of the ideas that I heard, I thought were really good that we, so one of them was a good neighbors policy. And a 24/7 local managers for STRs. Those are things that we don't have currently in our STR ordinance. And they really recommended using technology to monitor and enforce compliance with STR regulations, so specifically. A crawler that's looking at all of the places where people advertise and market their STRs. To make sure that those folks are actually licensed in the city and paying their TLT tax. So that was an area where I felt like we might need to look at that. And we did talk a little bit before about TLT funds. We don't really have a way to audit that right now. The way that it's currently, we just get a lump sum check. We don't really know where it came from or how it was calculated. And that could leave room for people to take advantage of the situation and not pay their taxes.
Well, don't we have the applications coming into the city, then that goes to the state,
Correct,
okay?
well, sorry.
Well, let me just rephrase that. Our application does not go to the state. It's up to the person to register with the
Yeah,
state.
sorry.
We have nothing to do with it.
But we don't get an application.
We get our application for a short-term rental. Our application tells them they are responsible to register with the state. The city also does let the state know who has registered, and we also let them know who we see advertised that are not registered.
So are we currently monitoring then listings?
Not every month, every day, every week, occasionally.
So maybe AI could help us with that. So that's a big task to just try to, I mean, it's unreasonable to expect someone's doing that on a daily basis. Right, okay. Thank you. And then. Managing homelessness, Grants Pass versus Johnson case study. So. Biggest thing there was and again, this is another one that's a lot of legalese, and this just went to the Supreme Court, and basically the legal context is that public sleeping cannot be criminalized if no shelter options are available. But for smaller cities like us, having regional shelters would kind of be the option of working around that. And we can offer, we can have time-based sleeping policies allowing night-only public sleeping. That is a way to work around that as well. And then the last one was the keynote speaker, and he was talking about 6 principles for rural development, and this really, I was interested to see that a lot of the ways that he was saying to assess the performance of rural development in a community like ours really aligned with the strategy we have already outlined in our strategic plan. So I thought that was a good example of our strategic plan is well written and is really in alignment with what he was advocating for. But the biggest ones I took things away from was the FEMA one. I was a little nervous that I was a little, I'm gonna preface it on the blind side, but it sounds like they're already on top of that. STRs, I think that we, we're gonna continue to refine and improve that. And the hate speech and civility, including that when we are looking at our council procedures in January. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Oh, Councilmember Seeger?
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for the presentation, Councilmember Happy. So let's see. Sorry, I just lost my questions. Here we go. So regarding the AI that was drafting ordinances, is that a free service or is that something we have to pay for?
That was free.
Wow. Okay. What program is that?
He used ChatGPT is what he was using.
Son of a gun. Okay, that's amazing.
One of the things that he showed us was that the very first thing you do is you give it a prompt. And so in this case, in the example that of him drafting a code, said you are a municipal code expert. And so that way it kind of prompts it with, this is the, your mindset as you're drafting something. And I want you to prepare a code that's easy to understand by anybody. It's written in plain language. So it kind of gives it a little bit of a framework to operate in. And then it says, we want you to help us draft a code for, golf carts in our city. And then it came out with the code in about 10 seconds.
Wow.
It really changes how you take notes too.
Yeah.
I've got to get better at that program.
Yeah,
But
so
it's amazing.
I used a program called Otter AI for my note taking. I've been using it at work too, and it's incredible. So a lot of what you're seeing in front of you from my packet was from Otter AI, and I took the notes from Otter AI, the transcript. I put that into ChatGPT with a strategic plan, and I was looking for alignment between the things that I was hearing in class in these sessions and things that we identified that we need to work on. And so that's where a lot of this stuff came from, was from leveraging AI. So.
Pretty cool.
Okay, I had one other question, if I could. So on the FEMA map, I actually know a few folks who have property along Dry Creek in town. And, we've talked about different, one of them literally has an empty lot right on Dry Creek, and another one has a home. And, we've discussed, construction of an ADU and different projects like that. I mean, one of them eventually wants to build a house on there. So I guess what I'm curious to know is there like a cutoff when if they want to get a building permit under our existing FEMA map, when do they need to do that? Otherwise, it sounds like they're going to have a smaller footprint to build something in eventually. Can you talk about the timeline on that? You see what I'm asking?
Is that, I think that's more of a question for Mr. Bennett to respond to than me.
Yeah, that's who I was going to ask. That was for the administrator.
I'd have to look into that. I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there's other citizens who are facing the same thing. It would be nice if we gave them a heads up because that could be, a rude awakening. A lot of folks don't follow this that closely, so.
Mr. Seeger, I can.
And Councilman Seeger, realtor who moved away was talking about the floodplain changes and it will impact homeowners insurance. So any advice to build before the change may be misrepresented if we are advising them to do something that they may not be able to insure properly.
Ruben, did you have a comment?
Well, yes, Councilmember Seeger, my understanding is that FEMA wants us to opt for one of the three selections by December 1st, but that the regulations won't be finalized until spring of 2025 is the goal there.
And am I correct in understanding if that's the process we follow in spring of 25, anybody who has property along, they will be restricted for this new boundary. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, that depends on what the ultimate FEMA map is.
Okay, so we don't know if it's 175, the whole breadth of or the length of the creek. Or do we?
That I don't know. I was just giving you timeline. I haven't looked at the city's FEMA maps or what's being proposed or presented so far.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, Councilmember Happy. Good report. All right. Any message on your phone yet?
Negative.
Okay.
I told him just to join in on Zoom if he's able to
Okay.
make it, so.
All right, we're gonna go to 7C, employee pay structure proposal. You want to read that first, and then we too have public comments?
Yes. As discussed at the October 14th, 2024 council meeting, city staff has been working with HR Answers to review organizational structure, update job descriptions, some of which have not been updated since 2007, perform a pay equity study, a market comparison study, and create a new pay structure for the city. During the middle of the process, City Council voted to bring back the finance officer position, which was added to the review and updated process. Brought for review is a proposed organizational chart that proposes a new structure and positions, proposed job title changes, proposed pay structure, and the reasoning for all of them. First, proposed organizational structure. A new structure is being proposed after reviewing the needs and pitch points of operations, extensive conversations with staff and HR Answers about efficiency and effectiveness of the current structure, positional duties, and council's directive to bring back the finance officer position. The proposed structure addresses the concerns brought forward by HR Answers, staff, and council. The first item the proposed organizational chart does is create an executive leadership team that would assist the city administrator in guiding the city forward. The Administrative Services Director, formerly City Recorder, would oversee all day-to-day, short-term, and medium-term City Hall operations. That includes utility billing, AP, AR, payroll, code enforcement, and records management. I'd also like to add that does cover IT and HR as well. The Administrative Services Director will have direct supervision of the utility billing clerk, administrative specialist, and community liaison. The Finance Director, formerly Finance Officer, will focus on the annual budget, audit, capital improvements, capital replacement plans, long-term financial forecasting for the city. This position will have no supervision or day-to-day responsibilities. Their focus will be working with the city administrator and other directors to develop long-term financial plans and capital replacement improvement plans. To create a separation of duties and additional level of checks and balances, this position will create the monthly financial statements for council review and perform any additional accounting functions beyond day-to-day tasks. The Emergency Services Director, formerly Fire Chief, will oversee day-to-day, short-term, and medium-term operations of firefighting and prevention, emergency medical services, and local emergency response. This position will see the least amount of change in this proposed restructure. The city administrator, public works supervisor, and the groundman/equipment operator are working together to fill the duties of what should be a full-time position. This is requiring staff to perform work beyond their job description and comfort zones. The quasi day-to-day oversight of public works and electric departments takes a significant amount of time, preventing me, city administrator, from doing high-level strategic work and preventing staff from completing boots on the ground work. This is why I'm proposing the addition of the utilities director to the organizational chart. This position will oversee the day-to-day, short-term, and medium-term operations of both the public works and electric departments. I will work with the finance director to find funding for this position within the 2025-2026 budget and beyond. These 4 director positions and city administrator will create the executive leadership team. I'm sure you noticed the job title changes. This was done to reflect changing job duties, properly representing their place within the organization, and consistency in job titles for the leadership team. This also allows for consistency within the proposed pay structure, as the end goal of the pay structure update will result in all 4 director positions being paid on the same pay grade. The current budget does not allow for an increase of the emergency services director's salary. The city administrator, finance, and emergency services directors will work together with the goal of getting all directors at the same pay scale by fiscal year 2026-2027, if not sooner. They will also work on getting firefighter paramedic salary increased as well. Within City Hall operations, The deputy city recorder position will be renamed administrative specialist to properly reflect their duties. This position will still support records management responsibilities, but that is only a fraction of their duties. They will also provide support to the utility billing clerk, day-to-day accounting functions, office inventory, social media management, and any other duties as assigned. In addition, the utilities director, the city administrator, and finance director will work to find funding for a lead or foreman lineman. After reviewing records and discussing the operations, current staff have determined that one additional lineman would eliminate the need for contracting secondary line services and the majority of vegetation management. We would still need to budget for contracting a full crew during storms and 3-phase work. This would also allow current staff to take a well-deserved vacation and prevent burnout. Pay structure and short-term effects. HR answers and staff have determined that a 12-step pay grade is the best option for the city, with automatic annual promotions to the next pay step plus a COLA of no more than 4% based on annual CPI reports. For staff who have reached the max step, they will receive a monthly longevity bonus of $200, $350, or $500 at 15, 20, and 25 years of service to the city. They will still receive the annual COLA increase. The middle points of the salary steps are based off the market comparisons and the city budget. If implemented, everyone will see a minimal pay increase. Highlighted on the pay structure is the starting step of each position. As stated on the pay structure sheet, new hires will start no higher than step 3. As reported at the last council meeting, most positions are currently within 20% of the market comparisons, which is the goal. Provided is a spreadsheet that shows how each position's pay would be changed and the effect it would have on each department budget. The fire and EMS department would see an increase of cost of $5,095. Public Works would see an increase of $8,048 over their multiple funds. And the administration would save $2,333 in salary and benefits plus additional administrative overhead fees coming into the general fund. These numbers are based off an anticipated implementation date of January 1st, 2025. Outside of the already mentioned director positions, the only other positions that share a pay grade are administrative specialist and utility billing clerk. In terms of functionality, they will be designed to provide backup to each other. Of the 13 points reviewed on the pay equity analysis, the position only differed at 1 point by only 1 point. Staff and HR answers determined this was enough to put them at the same pay grade. The pay equity analysis did list the paramedic and paramedic/firefighter positions as the same. Moving forward, all career staff will be paramedic/firefighter, and the paramedic only position will not be used, and there's no need for it to be listed on the pay structure. This pay structure will be used as the basis for determining budget needs each year into the future. It removes all ambiguity in the budget process and explains our pay structure to current and potential employees. Please note that the electric department staff salary is determined by their CBA, and the city administrator salary is determined by contract between the employee and the council. Next steps for tonight's meeting, I'm asking for consensus from council to move forward with the pay structure to allow staff to move forward in the recruitment process for the finance director, administrative specialist, and the community liaison positions. A formal resolution adding the pay structure for the employee handbook will be prepared and presented to council at the November 25th meeting. The final step will be a presentation of an updated budget showing these changes. This will occur once the finance director is in place. Attached for review are the org chart, pay scale, longevity pay policy, short-term effects report, pay equity analysis report, PERS comparisons, and paramedic salary comparison update.
And we do have, you're finished?
Yes.
Okay, we do have 2 comments. Tiffany Pruitt. You didn't go first, Mary.
Okay, so Tiffany Pruitt, citizen of Cascade Locks. During this budget process, we fought for $129,000 for 10 months of police coverage. Within the last couple of months, some of this council were upset with the prospect of changing the finance officer / now director from a contract position to an in-house employee. Now you're considering changing an electrical contract position into a full-time employee position, which but cannot make sense, because the finance officers that daily need alignment foreman, isn't as much. In addition to that, we suddenly need or slash want a utilities director. So now we need someone to tell them we currently have working what they need to be doing, and that's gonna be a full-time position. When the city administrator's job was posted, the part of the advertising for it was that the new administrator will be the city's chief administrative office, managing a staff of 15 full-time employees and other part-time employees while implementing the annual budget. I'm gonna stay on track here. Then in this proposal, there are $200 to $500 a month bonuses, which is $2,400 to $6,000 a year for long-time employees, in addition to COLA raises. And don't get me wrong, I really appreciate our long-time employees, but how about we work at getting all of our employees to the 100% mark, as is reflected in the pay equity study that you just had done, before we start talking about paying office staff that is already well over the 100% mark, paid bonuses. Also, something that's never considered here, a bonus, are our benefits. For a small town, we pay good benefits. Even the city administrator has admitted that, and that should be considered in this discussion. I'm wondering if the city plans a money tree somewhere that came to fruition. I mean, how in the world is all this gonna be paid for? And as a reminder, we're almost 3 years behind still on our audits. We still don't know what our finances look like. We haven't had an audit. And so I really hope that the citizens are paying attention, because in reality, this is where all this money is gonna come from. It's frustrating to hear that this we're just keep spending more money, we're gonna add more positions, and we still don't know what our finances are. And we have some that are well below the 100% mark, and we have some that are well above the 100% mark, and you're talking about equity and all the time, but this doesn't seem like we're getting there closer. And adding positions, I just don't, financially, I just don't know where this is gonna come from.
Mary Ann, well.
Well, I have some of the same concerns, but in a different structure. Before you can even consider this implementation of pay structure, you need to get the audits done and find out the balance of the accounts. I don't know how you can keep spending money that you do not know you have. I'm in favor of wage increases each year, but what you are proposing with increases, COLA, and bonuses is more than the city can afford at this time. Based on the new job description, who will be overseeing the planning for the city and working with the citizens? I see nothing in that job description about the planning. You cannot be guaranteed that the planner is going to work with the citizens. And honestly, it is better for the citizens to work with somebody in the city that they know and can trust than with just a planner.
All right, thank you. Okay. Discussion. Councilmember Baker?
Can I make
Oh.
a quick preference
Yeah.
and the reason why Mr. Cleveland is here is I want to make sure council is discussing pay structure and the overall policies of the city and does not develop into any discussion regarding individual employees and their pay.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Baker?
I thank you for all of this work and it coming from the study we did with HR Solutions?
HR Answers.
HR Answers. I am, as some of you know, I have worked in school district budget processes and contracts, and so I'm very familiar with the stuff. I like the transparency. I like job titles and the numbers. I am not sure. I have never seen a longevity bonus. I've seen steps and I've had friends say, oh, I maxed out. So Even if I got my master's, I'm not gonna get more. But the COLAs, yes, I like the COLAs and benefits, but my question is, who recommended these longevity bonuses? Is this something common now?
It is, yeah. I mean, every city's different, but it's something like this structure is pretty common. Yeah.
And are we not looking at ever max out stopping the bonuses?
Well, so, I mean, so it would max at 25 years, the $500 a month. So the person would have to have been in that pay grade, maxed out their steps in that pay grade, and worked for the city for 25 years to get that extra $500 a month.
Councilmember Crompton.
So they have to be at the 12th pay grade to start getting these longevity bonuses.
And have to have worked for the city for at least 15 years for that first one.
Okay, so it's not just it's the people that they're at the top of their scale, and then after a considerable length of time start getting some of these bonuses.
Correct. So instead of a plaque that says, hey, thanks for 15 years, here's $200 a month.
My other question on this is there if we were to implement this currently as it sits, how much would that come out? Like, how much would that take up in the budget?
So as I reported, it'd be about an additional 5,000 for the fire and EMS, which because they have been short-staffed with one position being empty, they have the room in the budget. Public Works as well. They have, I need to double check that number, but they have money in the budget across their multiple funds. And then the general fund is actually would save money based off this new structure and the positions that are currently empty.
I did reach out to a few mayors, similar town size, and I haven't heard of the longevity, and in their mind, they said they couldn't support it financially. That was my concern as well. I know, Councilmember Seeger brought up a term I've never heard of and called redlining. And so when an employee maxes out at a certain salary, they call it so when they hired or whatever, they cap out, they redline. So they're no longer going to get cost of living or bonuses or anything. They'll stay at that max. So that I thought was interesting.
My other question is, with this current org chart, there's 6 vacant positions. Is there a plan to fill those? And if we have them all filled, how would that look? And because 6 of there's more than 6 people currently on staff, but it's almost like double the current staff of vacant positions.
Well, yeah, so 2 of them are positions that have not been created yet. They're the utility director and the lead lineman or foreman lineman are not in the budget and would not go into effect until they are approved in the budget next year at the earliest.
Okay.
The finance director would hopefully, if this is approved, would go out for recruitment tomorrow, as well as the community liaison and the administrative specialist. The paramedic firefighter position, we have an applicant who's currently going through the process and hopefully starting here shortly.
Councilmember Miller, any thoughts?
Yeah, I echo Tiffany and Mary Ann on that. Not having our audits. I don't see how we can even consider the structure, but the amounts themselves, no. Until we have those audits in.
Councilmember Happy?
So you mentioned, bringing in lineman, foreman, and that would reduce our dependency on contract services.
Correct.
So do you have an idea? I mean, it's kind of the same discussion we had about a finance in-house finance officer versus contract services, what's the financial implications of our contract services and how does that compare to hiring a in-house foreman? Lineman foreman?
I haven't delved that deep. I just off the surface, it would probably cost us more to bring it back in-house. Because they are not cheap. Again, that is part of the work the finance director would do. Is those numbers.
And do you know what we're paying right now for contract services and how much we have budgeted? For that?
350,000 is what we have budgeted.
And you think it would cost more than $350,000 to bring that one person in-house?
Well, no, I mean, we're probably looking at 150, maybe more, including salary and benefits. Plus, we still have to keep some set aside for it when we do need
For
to
the
contract a
base
full crew. Yeah. So I don't see it saving the city any money.
But potentially, sort of like the finance director discussion, when you look at the cost per hour,
Correct.
it would still be.
Yeah, cost per hour, and we have our current one person is completely overworked and is due for probably about 2 months off. We have several staff that are over their vacation limit that need to get it down.
Can you speak to the addition of the utilities director position and why that, in your opinion, was necessary?
I would say on paper, the utilities is supposed to be, I don't know, 25% of my job. In reality, it's probably 50 or more, especially with the projects going on in the electric department and the sewer project. I mean, it has taken up an inordinate amount of my time. And I haven't been able to really give it the attention it needs. And again, a lot of it goes back to the long-term planning. Yes, I can help our staff do the day-to-day items, but I don't have the time to do the long-term planning for the department in terms of inventory management, vehicle replacement, who should be doing what, when do these things need to be replaced? I mean, again, we're just kind of going from one fire to the next without seeing down the road.
So the long term.
The long-term planning, yeah.
And then the last comment I was gonna make was just about the organization of the utility billing clerk and administrative specialist handling payroll, APAR, not having those people report to the finance director. And when we go to do the audit, that audit process could become, confused because the finance director, who's supposed to be an expert with all of our finance policies and procedures, is not involved with the day-to-day operations. And I could see that being a conflict where the finance director is pointing at the administrative services director and, unhappy with the way that things have been executed because it could negatively affect the audit.
Was there a question? I'm confused there. What?
Yes, my question is, why do you have money that's, in my opinion, I feel like there should be a direct line that only goes to the finance director because they're the one overseeing the audit, but you have utility billing clerk reporting to the administrative services director, and you have AP, AR, and payroll being conducted by the administrative specialist that report again to the administrative services director. So now we get into budget, to the audit, and they're asking for documentation about processes, and they're gonna then have to go to the administrative services director to get information to provide for the auditors, and they may not be fully aware or have control over how those procedures and processes are implemented and executed. So that's my question: is why do you have the utility billing clerk and ARAP and payroll reporting to somebody outside of the finance director?
Because I want the finance director to focus on the long-term planning of the city and not get bogged down by the day-to-day activities of accounting. We are in a position, because that lack of long-term planning, everything needs replaced. Our building is falling apart. The walkway bridge here is estimated to cost $76,000 to replace. We should never be in this position. We need somebody to focus on the long-term planning of this city.
But I guess, so you say you don't want them to get bogged down in the day-to-day operations, but they're not doing utility billing, they're not doing AR, and they're not doing AP, and they're not doing payroll. They're supervising the people that are doing those things.
I mean, yes, we could do that structure, yeah. I am not opposed to it.
And then lastly, here, I'm gonna stop for a second. I want to let people comment.
All right. Councilmember Seeger?
Thank you. So I've got a few thoughts here. First, regarding the longevity pay, I would definitely like more research on that issue. When I worked at the city of Gresham, we had longevity incentive programs, but they were not this generous. And really, at the end of the day, what I'm very, fixated on when it comes to compensation is that we're not being outcompeted by other cities who have a better program. If the market for, a properly trained planner or public works guy or journeyman lineman is this amount, and then, they're on the step ladder, and then 15, 20 years, they're making X amount. I don't want, another, organization to scoop that away from us because they have a more generous, longevity program. I just want us to be competitive in the market. My instinct tells me that that's not necessary. We can set our salaries per this salary study and still be competitive without the longevity. So I'd like a little more research to prove that out, that if we indeed don't have this, then we will be uncompetitive for talent with other cities. So that's my first comment on that. Regarding the audits, look, I share this concern deeply, and I've talked to the city administrator a couple of times about this, and I really want to tighten our planning and kind of oversight of this, so we have a clear timeline on when this is going to get done, because I feel very uncomfortable with the uncertainty that's created by this situation. I know other council members do, and I know citizens do. So I want us to get clarity on that. But if I could pause on that, as much as that's a high priority for me, and I really feel like we need to apply the resources to get it done. If I asked the city administrator or CFO right now, what's in, the LGIP, the local government investment pool for City Light, what's their fund balance, if you will, in that thing? You could spit that out right now without knowledge of the audit. Is that accurate?
The only issue would be the beginning fund balance. We would not know the exact number.
Okay. And then, okay, thank you. So let's see. So now I want to talk a little about the org chart conversation. So, when I looked at this staff report, and I sent the city administrator some notes, and I'm like, wow, we've actually decreased our FTE count since I was here, even though the population of Gresham has went from 1,100 to now 1,500. So our service demand has gone up, but in this proposed org chart, our FTE count has gone down. And so when I see that, I ask myself, what's not being done? When we don't have proper staff to manage the affairs of the city, stuff gets neglected. It sounds like a good example of that is a groundsman who's been working his tail off and is unable to take vacation. That's not sustainable. We need a properly staffed, electric utility, public works, all our services need to be properly staffed. So one, we can deliver the services need, but two, they can be functioning. These employees have the proper time to rest and recuperate and serve another day. So I'll just give you an example, if I may. When I was here, there were 3 people in public works. We had a public works supervisor, we had an employee under him, and then another employee. Okay. Now, right now, if you look at our public works, we have 3. So we're a go there. But in City Light, we had also 3 people. We had a electric light working foreman. We had a lineman and then a groundsman. And the foreman was also a lineman journeyman as well. So he would do work, on the system in addition to supervising. And so right now, what the city administrator proposed, I think, is, a very, strong proposal in my mind from a utilities management perspective, in that we've got you're basically taking, you have one additional general lineman, but this new person at this top of City Light would also oversee the Public Works Department. And I agree, you get some long-term perspective in managing these critical assets the city has, which we need. You know, I've always argued the City Light should have 3 employees managing that critical asset for the city. It is our most valuable asset that we own as a city, besides our streets, you know, and roads. And so, and again, it's a huge money generator for the city, as well as, you know, obviously a critical service. So if you're not properly staffing that, you are neglecting that asset. And I think, again, folks will eventually, you know, regret not doing that. The last thing I want to say is on the finance. I'm of a similar opinion of Mr. Happy, in that it's my position that the finance director should oversee the utility billing clerk and the utility billing clerk. And if the administrative service is also doing finance functions, then that as well. And then this administrative services director should oversee the deputy recorder and the code enforcement or the compliance officer, those 2 employees. And then, you know, again, you're aligning finance functions with the finance director, and aligning, you know, planning, recording, you know, code, all under the administrative services director. I think you're going to get a much more efficient, you know, delivery of services with that array. And again, you know, as I argued in an email, recruiting, you know, if you recruit, say, okay, we want someone who's an expert in all this municipal finance things like utility billing, APAR, and oh, by the way, you need to know recording and planning. That talent set is not out in municipal government. You're either on a planning or recording, you know, track, or a finance track. It's very rare to have people doing both of those. So I don't think that would be wise for us to array our services like that. And that's my one major change to the org chart. I like what he's proposed there. I just want all those finance services aligned under the finance officer, and everything else under administrative services director. And then they report to the city administrator. And then, you know, he can focus on the big picture things that we need him to focus on. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have your hand up?
Yes, so if I'm missing something on the document, please let me know where to find it. And I don't know if we want to pull up this proposed structure and the cost there, but right now, we're looking for a finance director. And are we actively looking for the community liaison?
Right now, we're not actively looking for anything. I wanted this conversation to happen to make sure there are no major changes in salaries before I go for recruitments, mainly for the finance director.
Well, if we were to add the community liaison and the finance director, I suppose, you can separate the answer if you want. How much would that cost us in this current budget, and where's the money coming from?
Say that again?
How much would it cost us if we did hire a community liaison, which I think is a very important, code enforcement is very important. So if we were to hire one soon, you know, but I suppose soon now is by January. How much would that cost, and where is the money coming from?
That position's already in the budget.
Right, great.
Yes.
Okay, so fine.
Both positions?
The community liaison.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and the, even at the current pay structure that you're proposing,
Correct.
okay. What about the finance director? How much would that cost if we were to hire within 2 months, and where did that money come from?
So instead of going to the contracted accounting services, it would go towards the finance director, as well as the, I think if I remember right, the additional from 5 to 6% internal charge was going to cover part of that expense as well.
Councilmember Happy?
So just getting back to the finance director position. So I just want to understand this correctly. So step 1, 2, and 3. Step 1 would be meets minimum qualification standard, $37.18 per hour. minimum qualification plus 2 years of experience would be 39.45, correct?
Yep.
And 39.45 times 40 hours per week times 52 weeks in a year, I think they came up to like $82,000.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And I thought we talked about didn't we try advertising at that and I didn't get any responses?
No, we advertise at 70 to 80.
78, so this
Yes.
is a little bit better. than
Correct.
what we-
Yeah.
Thank you.
And were we asking for like a degree or what were the specifics?
I think it was a 2-year degree,
Okay.
I think is what we had it at, a minimum of 2-year degree.
Councilmember Seeger?
Thank you. So one other piece on this. It was my intention, once we get the salary survey done, that we have a full understanding of what the impact is to bring our paramedics and our fire chief up to market salary competitiveness. And I understand with the best of intentions, the city administrator, the spreadsheet he put together, it proposes changes that are kind of quote within budget. And that's not wasn't my intention. My intention was to say, if any of these employees are making X and the salary study says they should make Y, then I'd like to know what that delta is. And then I want to have a conversation with council on how we get them properly paid. I know Councilmember Baker has been pushing this hard, and I agree with her. We need to, to everything in our ability to properly pay our fire and EMS, employees, all our employees. Well, we know for a fact from the survey, they're under market. And so it'd be my hope that council would be supportive of the city administrator putting together kind of an updated budget that shows, okay, and just for the record, in my opinion, this should be done after the election because we don't know if ballot measure 1480 is going to pass. If it doesn't pass, then we have a completely new conversation in front of you. Now we have a huge hole in our budget. But if it passes, then not only would we have that existing revenue, but we've got actually an increase. And I really think that can open up some opportunities to bring these salaries to market. And, again, we can move forward with confidence that we can retain these guys. They wouldn't leave us because we're underpaying them. They leave us because of some other reason. I want to get that fixed as soon as possible. And that's what I'm advocating for as a council.
Okay. Councilmember Crompton?
I think that this requires a deeper, longer discussion. But I am personally in favor of the initial go-ahead of looking for the finance director and the community liaison officer. Definitely, the budgeting for that is easy to go with. Where are we at with the administrative specialist?
Same thing,
Same thing.
waiting for this conversation.
And the budget is within budget for this current year.
Correct.
Then I'm okay with moving forward with those pay structures and we can talk about the rest of everything else at a later time with more like a work session, longer time frame. And by the time that we meet next, it'll be a different council. Right? So it's
Yeah, to get this, again, the thought was to get this in place, knowing the limitations of our budget, work with the finance director to get this to where they all at market value. But it all hinges on getting that finance director in place and moving all of this forward.
I'm 100% for that. I think that's what you were asking for tonight too.
Yes, yeah, I mean, getting it officially adopted in the handbook, that can wait. But tonight I need consensus to move forward with those recruitments at at least those 3 at the proposed salary ranges.
Clarifying, the administrative specialist salary is in our budget because somebody left.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have same.
I built the budget anticipating this increase would be necessary for that position. So there is room for that position.
Councilmember Happy?
And I think if I'm reading this table correctly, it's actually a decrease of $1.86 per hour from what we have budgeted.
Correct. Yes, if this matrix is followed where they cap out at step 3 for new hires, we'd actually end up saving money from what is budgeted. Yeah, everybody loves saving money.
Saving money is good. I know the audit keeps coming up. Where are we at with that?
We
Is there
are
a
Aldrich's.
timeline or
What's that?
timeline?
They originally told me end of this month, which obviously isn't gonna happen. I have put a call out to them to get an update. I have not heard back, so I'm gonna follow up with them tomorrow.
Okay.
So as soon as I hear something, I will get it out to council.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I know with Councilmember Seeger's comments about the finance director and who their report to underneath, I would be supportive of that. So anything that finances goes through the finance director. So the organizational chart to shift that around a little bit.
Sounds good.
Just because we talk a lot about being behind in the audits, I also want to applaud you, that we have caught up, how many years this year of auditing or in the last 2 years?
Well, audits, we were behind on reconciliations,
Right.
monthly reconciliations, the audits that between all the changeover in the finance department and having to get a new auditor out of sequence has caused the delays. Yeah.
And what is the reconciliations? We were behind how long?
12 months, I don't remember exactly. I know it started back when the most recent previous finance officer was hired, but we're caught up.
Right, so
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Seeger?
Yes, I just want to be clear that I support moving forward with the hiring of the administrative services specialist. And I also support moving forward with the finance officer. My only clause on that is that assumes that person will be supervising the utility billing clerk and all the finance functions, not including HR. I know previously the finance officer was doing HR. I did not support that. I really feel like that should stay with the administrative services director. But AP, AR, payroll, utility billing, all is in line with that job. So if we need to tweak that, the fact that now they're supervising an employee, then that would be my request. And then we get this thing advertised. Let's get them hired.
How does council feel about that? The aligning of it?
I like that alignment better that you recommended. Councilman Seeger, I am also hoping we will move forward with the community liaison. I think that code enforcement is very important. That's something you would agree with?
Absolutely. If that's budgeted, and I know it is, then yeah, let's get them hired. We've got resources applied. Let's do the business of the city. When the positions are empty, guess what? Services aren't being provided. So the administrator, you know what to do.
So do you have
Yep.
enough direction
I
to
do, yep.
move forward with
Yep.
getting that out so we can get someone hired?
Yep, it'll take me a day or two to get everything updated and get it out for recruitment at the end of this week.
Excellent.
How's
I guess-
everybody? Oh,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, let us know when you get it out there so we can help you spread the word.
Yeah,
Yes.
I need to go update a couple, sounds like about 3 job descriptions. And it shouldn't take super long, they're pretty much built, and then get them out there. Hopefully by Wednesday afternoon. If not sooner, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So Mr. Keller has not. He's haven't checked back in. Okay. So we need to circle back around.
He's asleep.
Oh,
So
He's-
Michaela
okay.
said that he
He's
confirmed he is not available.
okay. All right. So we need to circle back around to the ordinance 460. We are circling back to that 6A. Jordan, where did we leave off?
I think at this point, it will be read in title only with making it a declaration of emergency, given the timeline with not having a full council.
Okay. Sound consensus of council?
So
Good.
is there consensus of council to read it in title only?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I will read it one more time. Ordinance number 460, an ordinance of the city of Cascade Locks adopting short-term rental regulations within the city of Cascade Locks, repealing ordinance number 448 and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to? Is there a motion?
I motion to adopt ordinance number 446.
460.
Or, no, we have to wait for. I'm gonna have to, our voting needs to hear it again. We don't have enough people to make it.
Right, yeah.
Correct, it's for a single meeting, or we can't do a single meeting by unanimous vote of the entire council. So this is just the first reading, the second reading to be taken up at the next council meeting. So it would be just a motion to accept the first reading by title.
Okay.
I
Go for it.
motion to accept the reading by title only of ordinance 460.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All right, vote?
Councilmember Happy,
Aye.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Councilmember Seeger,
Aye.
Councilmember Emmeline Baker.
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye, that passes. All right, now we're dropping back down to 7D, City Administrator Bennett report.
Not a super long one, one that focuses heavily on this building. Brownfield study. So if you recall, we got funds to do a brownfield study on City Hall from Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, who got the money from the federal EPA. The next phase of the study will focus on the condition of the building and possible reuse. So the first item is roof review. A review of the roof was completed on October 16th. Engineers determined that additional support or framework would be needed to be added to the roof to ensure the roof could hold the weight of the solar panels. McKed and city staff are now working with the engineers to develop a design and cost for implementation. The initial report is attached. Facility conditions assessment. Another team of engineers is completing a full facilities condition assessment of City Hall. A similar assessment was completed of Chenoweth Middle School in Hood River. A copy of the report is attached for reference and will receive a similar style report. Remedial building materials assessment. Starting on October 22nd, a third set of engineers began remedial building materials assessment. This will focus on determining to the best extent possible the existence of hazardous materials, i.e. lead and asbestos, within the building. Concept art. The final item is concept art. Stantec, the lead engineering firm for all of the project work, has brought in an architect to develop a rough idea of what a repurposed or new city hall could look like. We are moving forward with the idea of a multi-jurisdictional civic center. I have reached out to the port, post office, county, library, and fish food bank to gain their interest. I've gotten all positive feedback from all of them except the county. I've yet to hear back from them on if they have any interest in moving either the court over here or a possible public health office. So I'm still waiting on it. All this work should be completed around the end of November. I am hopeful that all of this will give us a clear picture on the future of this building. If it's $20 million to repurpose it and $10 million for a new building is the clear answer. As much as I think we would all love to save this building, I don't see it being fiscally responsible for the city to spend that money.
The brownfield's gonna help
Yes.
make decisions.
Yeah. Prepared food tax. As staff continues to explore the best funding options for the city, we're exploring a prepared food tax. Similar taxes are in place in Cannon Beach, Yachats, and Ashland. City staff are working with Eco Northwest to determine how much a 5% prepared food tax could bring into the city. Eco Northwest was recommended by Cannon Beach. The initial plan right now is to send all of the funds to the fire and EMS department. More to come as we learn more information. For comparison, Yachats and Cannon Beach have similar population size to us. I think they're both bigger tourist destinations. Cannon Beach in their first year of food tax brought in $1.5 million. Yachats brought in $400,000. I obviously don't see us getting 1.5, but if we can get $400,000, it'd go a long way in solving some of our funding issues. So more to come on that. Canceled meeting, a reminder that the November 11th and December 23rd council meeting are canceled. And the last item, you probably noticed that the monthly report for September finances is not in here. Now CFO, our assigned accountant is no longer with CFO. We've been assigned new accountants, and the one who we were assigned had a family medical emergency the last week and a half and did not get a chance to complete the report. And I'm told that it should be done by this week. So as soon as I get it, I will send it out to council. And then I'll be part of the packet at the next council meeting for public consumption.
Is that Mr. Bondi?
Yes, he's no longer with Now CFO. Yep.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Crompton.
Oh, not really.
Oh, I'm mixing it up. Want me to come back to you? Okay. How about Councilmember Seeger?
Sure. So can I ask one question on the city administrator report?
Yeah.
So the food and beverage tax in Cannon Beach and is it just, how do you say it? How do I say that?
Yachats.
Yachats. Okay. What percentage is that?
5%. They're both 5%.
Both of them is 5%. Okay. All right. Well, that was interesting. And then, so I just want to real quick say thanks to Miss Weaver and Miss Crane for putting together the candidate forum. We didn't have a forum, and they stepped up, and that was a wonderful event. Nice IT, great audio visual. I thought it went great, and I really appreciate them giving an opportunity to have this conversation. So just hats off to them, because I know that was short notice, and I hope it helps voters make their decision. Let's see. And then, can you give us a quick overview on election week? Can you everyone's going to have their, polls closed at whatever on Tuesday. And can you just talk us through the counting and certification? Can you talk us through that timeline, or maybe Kathy can do that for us?
I'm going to defer to Kathy on this one.
State law says the county is supposed to have the numbers to us within 20 days after the election.
And when do polls close on Tuesday?
Pardon?
When do polls close on Tuesday?
8.
Okay. And then we get the certification, and then whoever's elected is seated. Is it the beginning of January? Is that when that happens?
Yeah, you're seated in January.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, I got to look at the candidate forum. I was disappointed that they just mentioned that 3 of us were missing, but they didn't even mention our names. And I was, when I got the message about the forum, I was already in Texas. They notified us late. Because I guess they had short notice. And I know Brenda had a family emergency, so she had to take care of that. She wasn't available. John's got a young child, so he was probably tied up with her.
And I was sick.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Both were sick.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it was unfortunate that they decided they didn't put our names out there that we were running. So otherwise, I had a great time in Texas with all my military buddies and stuff. And I'm back.
All right. All right, Councilmember Compton.
I want to thank staff for all of our work, and I'm glad that we are getting everything more equitable in our pay structures and we're moving in the right direction. I'm really happy we're moving everything in the right direction with having this ordinance for our short-term rentals coming into effect hopefully soon will make our town safer. It'll help us with I don't think it's a huge problem, but it's a concern of many citizens here about our short-term rentals and our housing and not trying to drive any costs up. And
Councilmember Baker.
Thank you. I also want to thank the staff and City Administrator Bennett for the work in with the HR to do the step and have it. It's important to me that we have a clear and transparent way that we increase pay, salary starting. I just think that that is very important for people, new hires and people that are here. I'm glad that we'll have deeper discussion for bonuses and things later. Appreciate that we will go forward. We do need a code enforcement person, and I'm going to thank the Durham County Sheriff for the arrests for thefts lately in our town, and hopefully that will reduce some of the thefts that have occurred. And I want to point out that where they were arrested probably would have some code violations too. And I will remind this body and the community that speaking with sheriffs in our town last year, and I said, what can the city do? We know we only have you sheriffs for a very short amount of time. Even though our county taxes pay for sheriff and we pay extra, no other community in Hood River County pays extra for more sheriff time, but we do. They said code enforcement, code enforcement, code enforcement. So as we get somebody on board, hopefully, and well-trained and meeting the sheriffs, they will be a partner in helping pay attention to what's happening in our town. So I think, public safety is so important. I want to thank the folks who come and share their opinions. I want to thank the folks whose opinions I hear in the community and support, as well as in social media, especially the positive support for what's going on, all the volunteer work that so many people are doing in this town. And on that note, I want to say that I hope this community knows that there's businesses and organizations doing great things. Samantha with the food bank, and then we have so many businesses that are doing little things for Halloween. So if you look at the ads on social media or check in with them, you will see some things that they're doing, and I appreciate that. The events that our businesses put on and the port and other organizations are welcome to everybody, the full diversity of our town. So I just want to thank all the people that are stepping forward and creating things for us, tourism committee as well. And as you know, there's a nonprofit downtown revitalization committee called Main Street. It's part of National Main Street. I went to a conference there, and I'm happy to share notes. I really love what Councilman Happy shared, more detailed notes. But one important takeaway we heard from the conference was with Washington. Walla Walla was named best downtown or Main Street by some publications. Bringing the community together. It's not about tourism. It's about the community, because if you make it good for the community, then it's also good for those tourism folks too. So lots of grants coming in. Amanda Ferguson with the University of Art and Planning and the city's Downtown Revitalization Committee shared grant opportunities with the team, the committee, and Mr. Bennett. Main Street Cascade Locks has the ability to get out grant opportunities to building owners for up to 400,000, so that our team there is working on, with guidance from Oregon Main Street, how to present that to building owners to apply for. We don't choose, it would be Oregon Main Street that chooses. But it's exciting, the grants that are out there. There is a cultural trust. If anybody wants to sign up, there are things like how to talk to funders. And I'll put some of these things out in the social media. That's free. The McCann Economic Symposium is this Friday in the Dalles. It's $20, but they also have a link that says, if you can't afford that, click here. That's open to anybody interested in economic development. We have, there was something else I wanted you to know about, but I probably spent a lot. Another key takeaway was something that Councilman Happy said, youth, getting our youth involved. Youth council members, youth on committees. So if you have teens that want to have a voice, I certainly encourage that. So thank you, Mayor Fallon, for, as one of the volunteer activities I was talking about, making a basket that's up all month that buddies to raise money for Northwest Search and Rescue, as well as Gorge Canoe Club, which does a lot for our community. In the summer, they do free classes for kids. And then doing the Battle of the Mayor. I don't know how much was made that night, but
It was fun.
But, so thank you to all of our volunteers, some sitting here, some online, certainly the folks around this table. Thank you for all you do.
All right, Councilmember Happy?
So there's one keynote that I was looking through here to find, but something I remember hearing at the LOC conference was that TLT funds could be used for public safety to support fire and EMS. I think we need to look into that and see how we can maybe utilize our tourism to help support public safety. The point they brought up was that the visitors to our community are also a big draw on the demands for our fire and EMS. And so they recognize that and provided more flexibility with the way that those TLT funds are spent. Elected Essentials Workshop is going to be on December 6th. So that'll be good for any new council members, even the rest of us that have been on council. It's a good refresher just about ethics and how to conduct ourselves. And I wanted to say, I'm very excited about getting our finance director position posted, so that's great. And I appreciate you hearing us on aligning the roles and responsibilities of the finance department underneath the finance director. I think, the audits are top priority. They said they'd have it to us by the end of October, so I appreciate you reaching out to them. Our hope was that by 12/31, we would have our oldest audit caught up. And then by next budget cycle, we would be have the next audit complete, which at that point would mean we'd only be one audit behind, which would be last fiscal year, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So thank you for keeping pushing on them. I feel like we have to really lay out some measurable milestones for them and hold them accountable to actually achieving them. But it's really hard to know where we stand when they tell us they're going to be done by the end of October, but we don't really know where we are in that process, how close. Maybe they are really close. I don't know. But it'd be nice to know a little bit what a detail and what the steps are to get there and where we are on that path. And Ms. Bump brought some good concerns, which I'd heard from other people that made it too, about dumpster days. And I think I saw Mr. Bennett writing down some notes about that, but it seems like that'd be reasonable to have a way to track, drop stuff off, and that they do live in the city. And I know when I go to the dump, they check to see that you live in the city and you're a trash customer if you want to drop off yard waste, for example. So it seems like that would be realistic. And why they closed it at 2 o'clock, even if the yard waste was still available. I think that's I heard that from other people as well. And that's all I've got.
Okay. All right, like to thank staff. You always keep us all informed with packets, and Jordan, thank you so much. Thank you, Ruben. for
Thank you, Brad.
attending. It's nice to see you. It sounds great. Nice to see the attorney, so, but, thank you very much. Councilmember Happy, thank you for your presentation. His, whatever program it was absolutely fascinating. We sat in classes and he was recording it, and then the AI, it just filters it and organizes it for you, and so thank you. Much impressed about that. I love it. Thank you, Janice, Heather, and Chris. They did a great job in the candidate night. Chris had it backlit with the red, white, and blue, and then everyone could hear everyone very clearly on Zoom. And so maybe the next council and next year's budget, you can look into that. Chris was quoting something like 2,300, but the things that they used, they were really high tech and very, very appreciative. Thank you to Buddies. Yes, it was Battle of the Mayor just recently, and it was a good turnout. All the proceeds went to the canoe club that evening. And then please, between now and Halloween or before Halloween, you've just got a few days, but go down and buy a raffle ticket or $5 each, or you get 5 for 20. 100% of those proceeds are going to, they're being split between Pacific Northwest Search and Rescue, which they're located up out of Hood River, and they come down here quite a bit for trail rescues, water rescues, and then also our canoe club. So they're two very good nonprofits. One thing in the LOC that the conference Pete and I joined, Gresham won an award for the rental housing program. So more information to come on that. It was really interesting. There was a lot of rentals in Gresham, but maybe they weren't safe. They had leaky pipes or mold and all this, and everyone who rents deserves good water, no mold and everything. So more information to come on that. They won an award for their program. Excited for the brownfield study to come in, because that's going to really help council decide. I know it's been a big dilemma now for a few years. Like, do you rebuild? Do you save it? What do we do? But with the brownfield study, council is going to be able to make sound decisions moving forward, what to do with the building. The prepaid food tax, Doug, I don't know if you all know, but lives in Yachats, and so I have a lot of familiarity with Yachats, and the locals absolutely hate it. They hate the tax. A lot of people avoid it to go in there, because if they can go to the neighboring town, Seal Rock or Waldport, they're doing it just because they don't want to be of the food tax. So, but there's always going to be two sides to that coin. And to compare Yachats to, as far as tourism, to Cannon Beach, it's like apples and oranges. They're both on the beach, but they have very, very far demographics and everything to offer. So you can't really do that. A question about the ballot box. Somebody asked me, when people put their votes in or their ballots in the ballot box, are they picked up every day? Is it once a week, or when do they get picked up? And
I don't know what the county's doing. The county is in charge of the box.
okay.
So I really don't know what their schedule is.
Okay. Do they pick it up the day of the election? Oh, God,
Well,
thank you.
They will pick it up at 8 o'clock that night. Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. That would freak me out to see that.
Crawling through your.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, so that answers that. I can answer that. What else did I have? And it really, thank you to Hood River County Sheriff. I did get a call from Sheriff English the morning they made the arrests and the day they did, and I was really, he's like, Mayor Fallon. I'm like, Matt, what's up? And he's like, I have good news. I'm like, okay, good news. So really, really proud of them. Won't go into detail public, but it took a lot of planning, a lot of work, and a lot of team what they did. So very, very appreciative to our sheriffs. So, and with that, that's it. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second? Discussion. All right, vote, roll call vote.
Miller,
All right.
Councilmember Baker. Aye. Councilmember Happy.
Aye.
Councilmember Crompton.
Aye.
Councilmember Seegers
Aye.
and Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Is that one of those
Big
big
bugs.
bugs? Oh, God, I hate
Meeting
those
adjourned.
things. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
You just-
No.